Hello friends, thanks for joining me today. I am going to be going over all of the spooky, scary books I read in October, along with my spoiler-free thoughts on them. Maybe you'll find something to read for next October, or, just anytime. Do what you want. Live your dreams. So let's just get into it without any further ado. The first book that I read was No Exit by Taylor Adams. So a college student named Darby gets stuck at a rest stop in a blizzard with 4 other strangers with no cell reception, and she discovers a little girl locked in a cage in the back of the van in the parking lot, and she has to figure out who's responsible and how to save the girl. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It was good. It was short. I haven't read a lot of thrillers, so I'm still not sure, exactly what kinds of things I particularly enjoy in thrillers yet, but I don't think that this is it. I read it in a few days, but it wasn't particularly anticipation that propelled me through it. It was more like impatience. I became more invested in the second half, but the book just didn't grip me. I liked Darby as the heroine. The kidnapper I did not enjoy quite so much. They were over the top, very dramatic. I think if this had been a movie, I would have really enjoyed it in that form, but in book form, it was just fine for me. If the premise sounds intriguing to you, then check it out. You might really enjoy it, but it wasn't really my thing. Next, I read Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I had high hopes for this. The cover is gorgeous. I heard that it was, really weird and freaky, but I also ended up giving it just an average 3 out of 5. So this is about a group of girls living on an island at the Raxter School for Girls, 18 months after a mysterious disease called the Tox kills basically all the teachers and mutates the girls' bodies. So this is, this has been advertised as, body horror. So one of the girls named Byatt goes missing, and her best friend Hetty is determined to find her. And I was definitely fascinated by all the body horror in this book. That was the most interesting part for me by far. But the rest of it was just meh. I don't know, nothing really rose to meet the hype I've heard about it. There was a certain realism to the relationships between the 3 main girls that I appreciated, but the relationships also just felt weird and confusing and not particularly healthy relationships. There's queer rep in this book, which was great. And, the overall vibe was unsettling, and I enjoyed that. There were, a few key moments that were definitely engaging and intense, but the story didn't really go anywhere, and the ending was ambiguous, which can be done well and be satisfying enough, but for me that was not the case here. Not a satisfying ending. I didn't like it. So yeah, overall, it was unfortunately just an average read. Then I read Pitch Dark by Courtney Alameda. This is a YA sci-fi horror focused on 2 teenagers, Tuck and Laura. Tuck is a crew member aboard the USS John Muir, which has been floating through space for centuries, and most of the crew have turned into these, horrible mutated creatures. And Laura is the daughter of a prestigious archaeologist and historian, and she's brought to the seemingly abandoned John Muir to search for remains of bacteria and enzymes from Earth that are needed to terraform Mars. So the two kids have to work together to survive monsters and humans, and essentially save the human race from extinction. And this was another average read for me. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. There's nothing really special or memorable about it. If you want something, pretty quick with, creepy monsters in space, the lives of survivors hang in the balance and our young protagonists have to save the day, then you might enjoy this. It's a pretty easy sci-fi to get into if you're trying to get into sci-fi and you enjoy horror. There's this device in the story that is an allegory for the silencing of and control over minorities, and it's pretty horrific. And I appreciated the main character's battle against that, which just made everything harder for her. And then Tuck makes a lot of references to like 80s nerd culture, and they're meant to be like charming and funny, but to me it just came off as cringy. And like, I like that stuff well enough, but to me, it just came off as cringy. Some people would probably love it, but I wasn't a fan. I'd recommend Ready Player One by Ernest Cline if you're looking for that kind of thing. And there was just a lot of things in the book that went kind of unexplained, and you just have to roll with it, which is fine. But if you want a fleshed out world, nah, this won't be for you. And it wasn't super memorable. And finally, I read Bunny by Mona Awad. I've been brimming with curiosity about this since I've heard people say it's just so bizarre and you'll either love it or hate it. So this is about a girl named Samantha who attends Warren University's like Master of Fine Arts program, like for creative writing or something like that. I don't know if they actually say specifically what she's going to school for. She gets pulled into this social circle of girls in her class who all refer to each other as Bunny. She can't stand them, but is drawn to them and begins to take part in their workshops where they conjure up things into reality, and Samantha just starts to kind of lose it. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. It's really hard to discuss this book without spoilers. In the broadest strokes, this book is about the devastating power of loneliness and the power of imagination. And having battled loneliness all my life, and the fact that, I often take refuge in fiction and my own creative outlets, I appreciate that that's what the overarching, theme of this book is. But it's weird, it's a lot, it's weird. I guess you could call the writing flowery, but it was just so strange and repetitive and sort of pretentious that I hesitate to use that word to describe it. Like, the dreamlike dialogue and the weird drug-fueled descriptions and imagery just got really tedious to me, and none of the characters were likable. This is the kind of book where there's very little that's explained, really. So if you don't like that, you'll definitely hate this. As I was reading, I didn't feel like this book had a plot. Again, it's just this word salad fever dream about this not like other girls girl who unwittingly joins a cult and oscillates between them and another, her best friend Ava, who is also not like other girls. It was interesting. I would label this like a horror / psychological thriller. It felt very edgy, if you know what I mean. There were moments of, truth and bluntness to it that I enjoyed, but it wasn't like a very good book. It wasn't the worst book. It wasn't a bad book, but it wasn't a good book. So I now know what all the fuss was about. I was actually satisfied with the ending, surprisingly, and I'm glad that I read it, but it is truly one of the weirdest books I've ever read. So, as you can see, October was kind of meh. I gave 3 of the books 3 stars and 1 of them 2 stars. Overall, I'm just kind of bummed that I didn't enjoy these more. The premises all sounded really interesting, but the way they were executed just missed the mark for me. So that sucks, but I'm glad I finally read them, and I do plan to unhaul all of these books to make room for other books on my shelf. It's kind of a shame because I love the cover of Wilder Girls and Bunny as well, but the stories themselves, do not spark joy, as Marie Kondo would say. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free, please, to leave any comments about if you've read any of these books, if you've heard things about these books, anything like that. I love to have discussions about it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!